and or this month, I guess. And so we'll talk about that near the end. But I thought maybe we would just do a quick intro for everyone since we all don't know each other all that well yet. So my name is Lee Brennan, and Corey and I started the Camino Cafe when several of our Caminos last year got canceled, and it was really all in an effort to make more Camino friends because that's all we talk about basically is the Camino. So we needed more people to talk to it about. And I went on my first Camino the year before or last year and loved it. It changed my life completely in every possible way. And I cannot wait to go back. So anyway, I just moved this past weekend. So if seems more scattered than normal, it's because I literally am scattered. Everything's a mess if you could see around. But anyway, thanks for coming tonight, and I'll let Corey introduce herself.
So I'm Corey Kratz. I live in Utah. Lee used to be my neighbor across the street, and we're dear friends as well. And this year was going to be my first Camino. I have wanted to go since I was 16 years old, so it's been a little over 30 years. I'm going to age myself, but I've wanted to do this more than most of my life. So I can't wait to go and enjoy what you've all been able to do so far. So thanks again for being here, everybody.
Michelle, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Michelle, and I'm known as Camino Concierge on the sites. And 7 years ago today, walked into Santiago. So it was today, October 9th. So it's kind of exciting. I was posting on my Instagram about that. And I'm originally from Seattle. I live in Scottsdale, and I too just love the Camino. I love to help people prepare for the Camino, ask questions, help mitigate the fear. Those are kinds of the things I like to do. So that's me.
Thank you. Kurt and Susan?
Yeah, I'm Susan Thomas and my husband, Kurt Kopner. And we've been lucky to be on several Caminos and felt very lucky to discover this group because it really has been a godsend in the midst of the time of isolation, keeping us kind of grounded and remembering our love of the Camino. So that's really been wonderful. But we love the Camino. We also have loved helping people in our area who are thinking about going on Caminos, just with encouragement also that, you can do it. So that's been fun for us, but we're glad to be here.
Excellent. Glad you guys are here. Carla, you're on mute. Do you want to unmute and say hi?
Hello, I'm Carla. I live in Toronto. I did the Française in 2018, and like everyone, I went to go in 2020. So it's great to have these online communities forming to keep us all excited and engaged and connected. Yes, I am very happy to talk about the Camino with anybody who even vaguely mentions, oh, that might be fun. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here tonight. Robert, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hi.
I'm Robert. I live in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is right in the middle of the Texas Hill Country, west of Austin. And I walked the Camino the first time in 2017 in Spain. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, so Robert will be our guest speaker tonight. So he's got a lot of interesting stories. So we'll let him get started, but we also need to have Helen introduce herself.
Hi, so I'm Helen in Calgary, and I was supposed to be on my fourth Camino this April. That obviously didn't happen, and probably just as well because another Camiga that I know was there just before me, and she did get COVID in Spain, and she is now one of the long haul people who has long-term symptoms. She's quite young, and anyways, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for all of us. And I was supposed to, I totally didn't read the message, but there was supposed to have been a Calgary chapter of the Camino group that happened on Saturday, and I discovered that today. So I missed out. So I'm sort of like, okay, getting my Camino community from elsewhere.
Well, we're glad you're here tonight, and sorry to hear about your friend. It was a real
Yeah,
tough time there in the beginning when all this started breaking out in Spain.
yeah, yeah. She was in Madrid trying to get out of Spain. You know, basically, the country shut down, and she had to make arrangements. And Madrid, of course, was the epicenter for the virus at that time. So it might have been, well, probably wasn't there because she was already sick when
Mm.
she was in Spain. But anyway,
Wow, I hope
yeah,
she gets full recovery. That's
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Helen,
Yes.
do you know Michelle Bradley in Calgary?
Yes, I do. Yeah, she came to me before she started on her Caminos, and we walked together. And yeah, you know her?
I've walked some trails with her. Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Oh well.
she's undergoing treatment for cancer
Yes.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we stay in touch. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, there's
I
some
was with
people.
her. I was right behind them when her sister fell and broke her collarbone in France uh,
Oh,
in 18 in 18, I guess.
yeah, she has been on
Roger.
Camino since me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, she didn't tell me about that. Yeah, I first knew her through through her daughter.
No.
Well, I volunteered at the YMCA, and her daughter, I can't remember she was a volunteer or she was working there at the time.
Mhm.
Anyway, yes.
small world, all the way from Austin to
world.
Calgary. There you go.
Well, it's the Camino, right?
It is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm super excited. Welcome, everyone. First off, I got this bottle of wine in Seattle, and I don't know if you can read what it's called.
Oh, Tria, wonderful.
I couldn't believe it. It's just a small little grocery store, and they had quite a few Spanish wines, and then I saw that, so can't wait to try it. Also wanted to mention that Michelle, I just signed up for her newsletter actually for Camino Concierge, and it's really good. She has some really great newsletters. So if you're looking to get something from Michelle, go onto her website and you'll get her newsletters. So anyway, we will start off with Robert. And Robert and I met online through I think this group or on another group, but anyway, we just started talking and became great Camino friends. And he invited me to speak with his group a couple of months ago in Austin. So he is a part of the Austin American Pilgrim group. And Robert is super involved with all kinds of hiking across the US, particularly in Austin, and has walked numerous Caminos. And I love his stories. And so after I spoke at the Austin group, I invited him to speak at our group. And so we are honored to have him here tonight with us and to share his various routes and to hear some of his stories. So Robert, you can, and Robert's also an author and had a very distinguished career in many different jobs. So he's got quite a background. So I think you'll enjoy listening to him tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's always fun to tell Camino stories. I have a bed and breakfast here. It's pretty active. And I had guests last week for the first time who had walked a Camino before they came to my bed and breakfast. I've had two who walked it after they came to my bed and breakfast because we talked about it. But we had a lot of stories to share. So I first heard about the Camino. I had a tangential tiny bit of knowledge from some friends that did a part of it 10 years before, but didn't know really anything about it. And a friend of mine gave me a DVD. We have a breakfast once a week I do prison ministry. We're part of our team. We get together once a week, and he gave me this DVD. It was the way, and he said, "You watch this, you'll like it." So I watched it the next day, and I wrote that on my list. Okay, I'm going to do that. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but then in May of 16, I was able to walk the Camino. And, I thought I knew what I was doing because I've been backpacking since I was 19, mostly in the Rockies, mostly 1 week trips in mountains. I did a whole lot of them. And so I thought I knew what I was doing, and it knocked me upside the head completely. But it took 30 days before I really felt like I got into the rhythm of the Camino. Of course, well, as soon as I got back, I was looking to go again on another walk, and I planned Portugal. And Portugal, so I went to Portugal on May 1st of 18, and decided to spend a month in Portugal and walk from Lisbon up to Santiago. Kind of ran a little short of time and took a train in there for a little bit in the middle, kind of the middle of Portugal, and went to Porto on a train rather than walking, but did walk a bunch of southern Portugal. And I had really never heard much about Portugal. It might be kind of a sleeper as a tourism places go, but it was totally fabulous. It's beautiful. People are wonderful. I used to wonder why Portugal was not Spain. And then when you get there, you find out that these people, you look at these people and think, these aren't Spanish people at all. They look totally different. They were Celts. So Portugal, the food, the wine, the scenery, the people was overall fabulous. It's a very similar system to Spain. The familiar yellow arrows and good markings, a lot of walking on boardwalks. And in part north of Porto, it's you can walk a significant amount of time right along the coast. I'm going to try to share screen here. Where is it? Are we sharing yet?
Yes.
Okay. We sharing. So that's what I walked that for a couple of days. It does get old after a while, and
Robert,
face and
it's, sorry to interrupt you. It's on the files again.
oh,
It's not showing the
okay.
picture.
try.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, let me try that. Oh, there we go. I'm not there. I think.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it looks like north of Porto, this Atlantic Ocean and boardwalks. A lot of southern Portugal too had boardwalks, but along the river, the big river that you walk along out of Lisbon. I'll caution you about Lisbon. It's easy to get pickpocketed in Lisbon. I met two people on the trail with me right then who had been pickpocketed in Lisbon, told me the story. But altogether, Portugal is fabulous. The difference in the southern part of that part in the trip, the albergues are few and far between. I stayed in some hostels and hotels, and they were pretty cheap and they were very nice, but they're kind of a long ways in between. Twice in southern Portugal, we knocked on doors to get water, to fill our water bottles. We ran out, and they don't have fuentes just everywhere. But altogether, Portugal, I would love to do that again. There are some routes in northern Portugal, the Espiritual and the coastal and the central, and I took the central. Now I have a friend whom I met in Portugal on the trail who has opened an albergue on the coast. I think it's the coastal route. And so I've been telling her someday I'll walk in there and be your guest. So when you walk across the bridge into Spain, the only way you know you're in Spain is because painted on the bridge is a little line and some footprints, and it says Spain and Portugal. But there's no police station, there's no boundary, there's no border. It's all open. So they use the euro, just a totally wonderful place. Then the next year, when I got back from that, I went with a girlfriend who I met on the Camino, and she broke up with me, and I was heartbroken. So I went to France in September. I thought, I got the money and apparently have the time. I looked at my calendar. I thought, wow, I think I have the time to go to France for a month. So I went to Le Puy, and you get there I flew to Paris, and then I took three trains south to Lyon, and then the last train over to Le Puy. I took the TGV train, which was 183 miles an hour, which was completely fabulous. Twice on that trip, when I got to a train station, wasn't real savvy about French trains, but I had a ticket on my phone. I'd bought it through the French train app, and I picked somebody at the station standing there, and I showed him my phone. I said, "Is this the right track for this train?" And I speak a little bit of French, but not that much. And they said yes. And then twice this happened. There's an announcement over the loudspeaker and everybody takes off. And the person I spoke to grabbed me by the shirt sleeve and said, "Come with me," because they changed the track. That happened twice. So I thought, wow, these are very, people say the French don't like Americans. It's total BS. I don't know about the rest of Americans. I don't know about you all, but they like me a lot. So France, France is completely different. Let's see if I can find that French picture. Okay. Then share. Am I sharing? No.
Hey, Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can everyone just double check and make sure you're on mute? Because we're just getting some background noise.
Well,
And I can't do that because Robert is hosting right now. And no, Robert, we don't have your photo up yet, just your files.
Okay. Well, I can't remember how to get that done. So anyway, I won't share that. But France is totally different. Their trails are not as heavily traveled. They're mostly traveled by French people. The trails are owned by the French government. They are maintained by local groups and by the government groups. I walked for 3 days basically with a weed eater group that were French government employees weed eating the trail right across them 3 times. They were moving about as fast as I was, I guess. And so they have bathrooms along the trail and some fancy porta potties. They have a completely different setup on lodging and on the Camino trails there. These are not everywhere, but they're called gîte d'étape, which is, I would call it a stagecoach stop in the old language. And they have a maximum of 15 guests to be able to call themselves that. They generally offer breakfast and dinner and a bed. They're usually out in the country. Some of them are in towns, but in the country, there's really no restaurants or stores much or places to stay. So they're it. You don't just walk into a gîte and expect a bed. Some people do, but they're often disappointed. You call ahead. They don't do email real well. It's best if you call them on the phone. And so if you don't know French, you just get in Google Translate and put together a little phrase. And what I say is, my name is Robert. I'm a pilgrim from Texas. Do you have a bed for tonight or tomorrow night? And if they say yes, they know you're not a native speaker. And so they're very precise in their language. And they say yes. And what time? And I say, do you have the meal plan, the demi pension? They say yes. I say, that's good. And they say, what time will you be here? I say 3 p.m. And they don't write anything down. They don't take credit cards. It's all cash. You show up there in that afternoon and, oh yeah, you're Robert, you're from Texas. So here's your bed. This is all in French, of course. Here's the bed, here's the bathroom, here's the shower, here's the washing sink, here's the clothesline. Here's dinner's at 7. And so virtually all have dinner and it's 7 o'clock almost all the time. And so everybody gathers at 7 and around a big table and there's already wine and bread on the table and then they start bringing in the food. I had one dinner that took 3 hours. I timed it to see how long they were taking. Most of them take at least 2. So you have a main course and you have another course, and then you have the cheese plate, and then you have dessert. And sometimes you start with an aperitif and you finish with one, and it's always out of a clear unlabeled bottle. And it's, I think, generally made out of plum brandy, homemade. And it's all the discussion is pretty much in French, and it's completely a blast. It's a very up experience. But so the gîtes, for me, kind of made France. You just have to be aware that they only hold 15 people. There is no overflow. The next one may be 5 miles. So you get in your guidebook and you make some phone calls to make sure you have one lined up. They are some of the most spiritual and welcoming people I've met were the hosts at gîtes. You just go with the flow. You'll be the only American, probably. You may be the only English speaker. If you aren't the only English speaker, or if you're lucky enough to meet a French Canadian, sit next to them and they tell you what's going on. I was at one gîte, it was a donativo out in the country, and we helped make dinner, which was totally fun. was fabulous too. And so someone tells a joke at this table. I'm the only American. Someone tells a joke, everybody laughs, and then everybody shut up. And this young woman across from me, who was Filipino parents, but Swiss ancestry, Swiss citizenship, just graduated from college, spoke 3 languages, and she told me the joke in English. And everybody just sat back and waited for me to get the joke and laugh, and then they all laughed with me. It was, it's really, really a fabulous experience. I thought the people were so welcoming and friendly. That from Le Puy for 2 weeks, it's up and down every day. It's up. You see a limestone cliff ahead of it, and you say, "We're going over that, aren't we?" Yes, you are, and it's 500 feet. And then you go down the other side, and then an hour later, you're saying, "Oh my God, we're going over that one too, aren't we?" You are. There's a lot of up and down. You just have to do it. It looks a lot like the Texas Hill Country, southern France does, with limestone, with rivers, with cedar trees. Old villages. In Spain, a lot of the villages are falling apart, but not in France. I think they must be valuable property because a lot of restored homes. The trail from Le Puy to Moissac is about 450 miles. It goes through 6 of the 10 plus beaux villages, the prettiest villages in France, and they are spectacular. They are absolutely spectacular. It really costs about the same as any other Camino. The Gîtes ran about $40 plus or minus 5, plus or minus 10, actually. The dinners were sometimes absolutely fabulous, unbelievable dinners, sometimes just dinner. But I had some that were truly, I would say, a gourmet meal. In the fall, everything's out of their gardens or their neighbor's garden. You ask where this is from. Oh, it's from my garden. And there's their garden. And there it is right there. It's all fresh because everything's ripe. France, totally fabulous. And then let's see, Italy. I walked some of Via Postumia in northern Italy, 2 weeks of it, with Michelle from Calgary and Tyler from Oregon. And we had met the year before on the Camino in France. Just briefly met them. I met them for about 2 minutes, but I knew in that 2 minutes there were people I was going to walk with again. And Italy, that part of Italy, it's up near Aquileia, it's just west of Trieste. It's flat, totally flat, kind of uninteresting countryside, just flat. It used to be, it's drained swampland. But the people were really fabulous. The food was over the top. I never cared for Italian food, but when you have Italian food in a restaurant in a village in Italy, it's not what you expect from the U.S. It's really a different thing. It's, I think, scratch. Don't have so many places to stay. You have to find different sources. Bed and breakfasts. I stayed at a bed and breakfast in this really old house. He'd said it was in the family 400 years. Had it been restored, it was their family house, and big, wooden beams on the ceilings, dark and just really a beautiful place. I went down. He didn't do dinner, so we went to the village and had an unbelievable dinner in the village. But in the morning, I went down early to write in my journal in the kitchen. We had agreed on 7 a.m. for breakfast. And this old guy, he's over 80, shows up on his bicycle. He's just been to the bakery to get us fresh croissants from the bakery for breakfast. Fabio, just the nicest people. That was €25 per night per person. It's about $30 a night per person. It's totally fabulous. Italy has a lot of trail. I plan to walk Italy next time I can get to Europe. I'll be walking Italy for 6 weeks on the Via Francigena. But Italy everything about Italy was great. The food was memorable. Ended up for 3 days in Venice, which was it's memorable, but I won't probably do it again. So, it's overcrowded, overpriced, but it smells terrible. But totally fell in love with Italy too. So who else walked? And if you walked any of these trails, Kurt, Susan, where else have you walked?
We walked from Porto to Santiago,
Yeah.
and then we've just done the Frances in the fall and in the spring. Yeah.
Yeah, so Porto at Santiago looks a lot like walking in Spain for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I did the European Peace Walk a few years ago, and it ended in Trieste.
Yes.
So that was from Hungary, Austria, Croatia, Slovenia, and it finished in Italy. So
I did the first 6 days of that in this last May of 19. We
oh,
bailed,
okay.
we bailed at Ljubljana
Ah,
because it was raining and it wasn't very well organized. And yeah, so then we took the bus to Trieste and then the train to Aquileia, started from there. But I did 6 days at EPW. It's a whole
Well.
different thing.
oh,
Yeah.
no kidding. Right out of Ljubljana, it had been raining the night before, but the path, and it was one of the few places there was a path, but it was under water that was this deep, like it was up to our almost up to our knees. We were walking through water, and then we had to climb under an electric fence. Then we had to wade through a little something that wasn't supposed to be that high, but because of the water, chest high water, we had to wade through that, go under an electric fence into a cow pasture, and then out of that cow pasture. It was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah. Whatever. We survived.
Yeah. What and when was that you did that?
That was in 2016, I think.
2016,
That was, no, 2017. No, 2016. 2016 was when I did the peace walk. Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Any questions about any of these countries?
Have you been to,
Go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Helen.
I was just wondering if you walked Norte yet.
No, that's the next. That's on my list after Via Francigena. Via
Ah.
Francigena is Canterbury to Rome, and it's about 3 months. And I haven't finished the one from Liput. I got as far as Moissac. I've actually been to Moissac twice now, because I did last year. I did the Selle loop around Moissac. I mean around. Well, it's Cahors. It kind of goes around Cahors in a circle. So that's 10 days, and that was really beautiful. The Selle loop, Selle Valley loop. But yeah, so I'm going to finish Moissac to Saint Jean. It's about another 2 weeks or 10 days. Next time I can get there, I'll finish that. Then I'll do the Del Norte. So
Mhm. Yeah, that one's beautiful.
Mm.
Also.
it has a great reputation. Many people told me it's their favorite Camino.
The Norte.
Mhm.
Robert, when you walked in Italy and France, did you also have a pilgrim passport for those
Yes.
particular parts of the trail?
Well, I got the passport from the American Pilgrims on the Camino. I use that one. So I've got a stack of them now. Take one for each different trail.
And then do they have an equivalent of earning your Compostela, or is it just count as a Compostela if you go all the way to Santiago?
No, they have one if you walk the Via Francigena, you can get a testimonium from St. Peter's Cathedral, which is kind of the same thing as a Compostela. And I think it's got the kind of the same rules. Yeah, occasionally pilgrims who've walked from Canterbury get to meet the Pope. I'm gonna. It's not a guaranteed thing, but I'm gonna make a request. A few weeks out, because that happens occasionally.
If you do the Canterbury to
From
Rome,
Canterbury,
you get to meet
you
the
do
Pope.
Canterbury to Rome, yeah.
How cool.
Yeah, and that park, the park from Dover, from the French Calais, the port where you start in France over to Switzerland, this doesn't get walked much. It has a reputation that you walk the whole month and never meet another pilgrim across northern France. So
Wow.
it's a really different kind of experience. And again, finding
there-
places to stay is the challenge there.
I'm sorry, what?
Finding places to stay that aren't the €100 hotel. That's the challenge on that trail. There's no gîte de top in northern France, and there's not many bed and breakfasts or hostels, or it's in Italy. It has monasteries, convents, and churches that put people up, and you stay a lot of your trip in Italy in one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you walk from Canterbury to Rome, you take a boat over from Dover to Calais.
Mhm.
And then this is probably a really silly question. Oh, what's that?
Okay, yeah, I've read that, Timothy Egan. Have you
Yeah.
finished? Have you read it?
Yes,
It's
we
got-
just read it.
Kind of this depressing story. The history of the religious Europe in the 1500s is in some cases terrifying.
Yeah.
What's the name of that, Kurt?
Pilgrimage to Eternity.
Yeah, Timothy
Egan.
Egan,
He's
but,
a longtime New York Times columnist.
yeah, but he
yeah.
did the Canterbury, but we thought it was really good. We just finished it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'll have to get that.
Yeah.
Okay, this might be a silly question, but I'm just asking for when I take my dad next year, hopefully. When you did the Portuguese, did you do the coastal or both the coastal and the interior?
You switch over from when you go north out of Porto, you're along the coast, and day 2, we run into a town where you can switch over to the central. And we
Okay,
went to the central. Then there's the spiritual and the coastal, and they have some more complex things, and we didn't have a guidebook for it. That's partly why we didn't walk that.
and when you're walking along all those boardwalks and whatnot, do you get a lot of sand in your shoes, or is it just, because that picture looked pretty sandy?
Yeah, you do. So, yeah, you have to stop now and then dump the sand out. Yes, you don't walk on the beach per se. Now there are some in Italy. You do walk some beaches. There's some stretches where you can walk the road to the town, or you can walk across this enormous beach. And sometimes they are on the beaches there.
Okay,
But the
so,
boardwalks were just to make walking possible.
okay.
So it's quite
So
beautiful.
on the Portuguese, you cannot do coastal. At some point, you come over to the central
You
trail,
can
right?
take, you have a choice.
Okay,
There's a Y in the trail. So,
okay.
and
And Kurt
I
and
thought,
Susan, which one did you guys do?
We did the interior one. At that point, we really, we used our Briarly, and I think the coastal one was kind of less marked. And we heard that from people that were traveling, that it was easy to get lost. And this was several years ago. I think it's improved since then. But at the point we were walking, we were choosing the more well-marked trail. So, no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's gotten better
Better.
marked in the last couple of years.
Portugal has
14.
Fatima, a pilgrimage to Fatima, and that's marked with blue arrows. And you'll find places where the arrows cross.
Yeah.
Or point opposite each other.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's blue. That's Fatima. My friends on that trail did walk to Fatima. We didn't. Because it was their big weekend celebration. I thought, we don't want to go there with their once a year big weekend celebration. It's hard enough finding a place to stay as it was.
Kurt and Susan, did you go to Fatima?
We didn't. We didn't.
No.
We definitely saw those blue signs,
Okay.
just as Robert was describing,
But we agree, Portugal is very different
and
Mhm.
lovely.
and very lovely.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What about other questions? Carla, Helen, anyone have questions for Robert about his many different routes?
Well, I have one comment first. One of the things about Portugal is everyone speaks English really well, like even older people. Like I had to go to the hospital in Portugal. I was okay, but I like looked up all the things I wanted to say, and like they're like, you can just speak English. So that
Portuguese is very difficult for us. It has no relationship to what we're used to in language.
No, it looks like Spanish in spelling, but pronouncing it's nothing the same as. And I don't speak very much Spanish, but like reading menus and stuff, I could do that with the little bit of Spanish I knew. But I wanted to say, one of the bloggers I was following who was doing the Portuguese, he is a funny guy though, but he was talking about crossing from Portugal into Spain and the jet lag, because there's 1 hour time difference. Did you have that jet lag? No. 1 hour is not really jet lag.
Yeah.
You're just being funny.
So
I
you didn't purposely walk on the beaches, because on Norte, that was one of the best parts, was just taking off my shoes and socks and just walking in the sand. And that was just heavenly. It felt so good, so good.
All the time I was on the coastal trail at Porto, the wind was 20 miles an hour right in our faces.
Yeah.
it was after 2 days of that, we were ready to go inland. Yeah.
Okay.
Helen, on the Norte, how would you compare the challenge of walking the Norte to the Frances?
Oh, Norte is definitely more difficult. It's hillier, longer distances. It was, they were definitely much longer distances between places. But I was there in September, and when I was there, I was the only. Well, no, that's not true. The first week, there were 2 Americans, but then after that, they left because they were only going to do a short part. And I was the only native English speaker. And at that point, there were very few people we recognized, all the same people every day. It was in the first part, it was more, really didn't feel like the Camino in that, how in the Camino, everybody approaches you, like all the locals. And well, okay, firstly, there weren't very many people. So, but the locals on Francais, they would say Buen Camino and all that stuff, right? And you were special. But on Norte, especially going through Cantabria, first through the Basque Country and then Cantabria, it is such a famous tourist area that any pilgrims were just cheap tourists. Like you were nothing special, and so there was no Buen Camino and that sort of stuff. And I think it's improved now, but certainly, and then when get into Asturias, there was a really sketchy albergues, like really sketchy, and there weren't too many places to stay. And this was in 2013, was when I did Norte. And I've talked to people since, and who have done it since, and there are a lot more accommodations now. But the scenery was just spectacular. Like it's just like stunning scenery, because, well, not for the whole part, but for good 2/3, not quite, more than half anyways. You've got the seashore.
Looks like there she's back.
Oh, yeah, it says, I see, it says your internet connection is unstable. Thanks, internet. Okay, anyways, but it's beautiful, but more difficult, definitely hillier, longer distances, fewer places to stay. But when I got back and I was invited to talk about it, I said no at first because I was so fed up with that Camino. I just, and I had talked after walking Francais, but I just sort of, I don't want to talk about it. I would not be a good ambassador for this route, and it took another half year before it's sort of like, okay, it's okay now, I like it a lot now, and I would consider, yeah, I might consider doing it again if I ran out of other Caminos to do, but
When the world opens up again, it might actually be very crowded because there'll be so many people.
Which would make a change from when I walked the Albro. Robert, you were talking about northern France not seeing anybody in that month. Well, Diablo, I started in Zaragoza, and it joins up with Francais in Logroño, and that's a week. And I met one pilgrim in that week on the last day in that route. Yeah, I don't recommend that route. It was really.
I did 2 days in France after Conques, where I didn't see any other pilgrims on the trail or the Gite or anything for 2 days.
Yeah, I was lost in one town. So I was asking for directions to get to the road to get out of town. And this very sweet young man was sort of like, he was trying to say, okay, well, here's where the bus, the bus stop is over, blah, blah, blah. And says, no, I'm not looking for a bus stop. I'm walking to Santiago. And he says, walking? You're walking? You're crazy. He says, like, didn't even, you think everybody knows about the Camino, but like he was just so, well, he wasn't the only one. Like they sort of like, what are you crazy? Like you're going to walk? Anyways, whatever. So it was kind of fun.
It would be a good Camino if, I mean, at that time, we think it'll probably be crowded after the pandemic, probably more crowded, but it'd be a good one if you wanted to be by yourself to work out something or on a spiritual pilgrimage. But if you're,
Oh yeah,
if you enjoy the relationships, then it's not the best one.
Have you seen a Camino movie that might have been about the Norte? It's a group of Catholics, I think, out of LA.
Or something. Yeah, yes.
Do you recall the name of that movie?
Something about footsteps or footprints.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So they're on the Norte, right?
They were, and then they went on to Primitivo, and I debated about whether or not to continue on the Costa route or go into Primitivo. But at that point, I had sort of, my knees was kind of icky, and it had been, just rain, deluge for days on end. And so I was just fed up, and one of my poles broke. So I sort of like, okay, it's a sign. I'm just going to do the coastal route because I don't need the difficulty of sort of going into the woods with slippery leaves and hills and sort of like, so I didn't do the Primitivo. But yes, they started on Norte and then they switched in Primitivo.
Okay. That movie, if you haven't seen that movie, the scenery is very beautiful, like Helen was describing on the Norte in the very beginning. I just kind of switch gears a little bit, and we'll let Robert go first if he wants. But we thought tonight for our Camino story that if you would like to share just a brief, maybe 2-minute kind of thing on where you felt like you might have hit a wall during your Camino or one of your Caminos, and just kind of share, if you want, what you did to kind of get past that momentary moment where you felt like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I just would rather get a bus and head to the airport kind of thing. And what happened to keep you back on the path? So Robert, have you had any of those moments when you have walked any of your Caminos?
I did my first Camino in France, and I don't know when it was, probably 10 days in. And I realized as I was walking down the trail, I walked by myself, although I'd made some very close friends who were Germans, and we'd always stay at the same berge. But I walked the trails by myself, and I was off and upset. And I said to myself, what is going on here? This is the trip of a lifetime. This place is beautiful. It was beautiful. What is going on, and why are you in such a bad mood? And so I had been reading In This World and Not of It. And I thought, I'm going to try to be in the present moment. I'm going to work at that. And so I would walk for a ways with my eyes closed, just hearing and feeling everything with my eyes closed. And then I would try to see every sound I could hear around me. And I'd try to find all the smells that I could find. And just to put myself in the present moment. And that really changed everything. I went from dreading the next day's walk to looking forward to it. And it was, because I don't know why I was so upset. Probably part of the process of why I was there, just to sort that out. And I didn't know it at the time, but it kind of kicked me. I was physically capable of it, but the emotional side of it, I wasn't prepared for.
What was the book that you mentioned?
Oh, Gina Lake, In This World But Not of It. It's on Brierley's reading list. I didn't know that at the time. I had it, somebody else referred me to it.
Do you recommend it? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did, yes. It's her thesis is that human beings are spiritual beings in a physical body. And so a lot about spirituality.
Oh, all right. Carla, do you have anything you'd want to share where you've hit the wall during a Camino?
Yes, well, you know what? One thing, well, I blew out my knee walking down Roncesvalles, and I had to take a rest day, and I just couldn't walk anymore. And I lost the friends that I made in the first day because they didn't want to stop yet, of course, because we were only like 3 days in or something. So I took a rest day, and I actually ended up getting to Santiago before them somehow. But the worst part, though, was that I actually lost all of my acquaintances and Camino friends for about 4 days, somewhere between, the place that starts with H, like around Castro Jerez. I forget, it's like Hornado or something. So somewhere between there and Leon, I lost all of my friends. And that was like the Meseta, which was like the worst time to be sad. And then someone from home sent me this email that was like really sad about his health and stuff, and it was horrible. But I actually went to did you see on the Frances the and I can't remember what it's called, the albergue that has like teepees in the yard, and you can sleep in the teepee for like cheap, and you can sleep in hammocks and stuff. It's somewhere on that route, and it was like actually right before the most challenging part of the Meseta. And the woman there, she barely spoke English, and I don't speak much Spanish. And she's just like, you know what, the Meseta's coming on, just like welcome it, like just embrace it. So I tried to like open my arms and think of her, this like, she's this hippie playing guitar and stuff, and renting out hammocks in the backyard to pilgrims. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring it on. And I bawled my eyes out like every day. And then in Leon, by accident, I found my friends again because we hadn't exchanged email addresses and stuff. And I just accidentally bumped into one of my friend groups. So then it was all better again. But yeah, being that alone and getting the sad email and everything right before the Meseta really sucked, actually. But I just kept calm and carried on, I guess, but with lots of tears, and it sucked. But I would do it again.
Yeah. Susan, Kurt, do you guys have any examples of hitting the wall? And
You know, I don't think Kurt has hit the wall ever. I've had experiences, and the one that's probably the most memorable is hurt an ankle, and around Burgos, I realized I couldn't keep walking. It's a little bit like Carla, and it's just so sad when I realized that I had to stop for a while. And so I stopped and rested for a couple days, got bags of ice and figured out how to say that in Spanish, and, you know, took care of my leg and iced it. One of my rest days was in Castro Jerez. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but they have this amazing place called Hospital of the Soul. And a person has just created this place that's got poetry and music and scripture and candles. And it's a place where you're supposed to go in and just be quiet and be still. And it really was a hospital for me. And I had this whole day of just resting that I didn't want to rest, and prayed a lot. And after a couple of days of rest, I was able to keep going. And of course, we were heading into the Meseta, which was wonderful because I didn't have hills to climb. And just, you know, pharmacy helped a lot. I got some magic ibuprofen cream and a brace for my ankle, and was able to keep going. But it was very devastating to think, what if I have to completely stop? And even to stop for 2 days was hard. But then it became like my story, though. I really felt that God had helped heal my ankle, and I had that time of coming to grips with that. So it was my story, from one of my stories anyway.
a
Was
hospital.
the guy-
soul.
Pardon?
Hospital.
was that-
soul.
That was Mao who started that place, that center, right?
You know that place. Okay.
Well, he was just about to open it later
Really?
that month. And he was telling me about what he had planned to do, because
Oh,
he was
wow.
the hospitalero at the albergue that I stayed at. But yes, a lovely, serene presence that he had. Yeah, he was lovely.
It's very rustic and it's just open, but it was a very healing place. Mhm. So it was part of my healing, I think.
Well, a quick mention of the exercise, it kind of relates to what Robert said. We started doing with our family based on somebody recommended it. In the morning, think about the previous day and go through all of your senses and say, what was the most memorable thing about what you heard yesterday, what you smelled yesterday, what you tasted, and what you saw, and what was the most memorable moment of the previous day. And so it's kind of, and it makes you think about everything you're seeing throughout the day a little bit differently. So it's kind of reference back to what Robert had said earlier.
That's a beautiful practice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And Helen, who did you say started the Hospital of the Soul? What was his name?
His name is Mao, M-A-O, or like it was like spelled. I don't know if that's how he actually spells it, or that was my phonetic translation of it, but that was his name. Anyway, it's pronounced something like Mao. He was actually from, I don't remember, I want to say Turkey, but I don't think that's right. But he's not a Spanish guy, but anyways, if I look through my photos, I'll eventually find my notes to that, but too many photos, right? So.
All right. And then Michelle, do you want to unmute? Are you still there? Do you want to unmute and share a story? I know she texted me, she had to step away, so she may not be still on. All right, well, we'll wait on her. Helen, do you have a time when you hit the wall that you'd want to share?
Yes, I have a couple of stories, but I'll just tell you the one. This was on my first Camino in on Francis, and I ran out of water, and it was brutally hot. It was in May, and I didn't have sunscreen at the time. I wasn't very prepared. What can I say? And my pack was digging into my back, and thought I was going to have sunstroke because I kept imagining, kept seeing out of the corner of my eye an overpass where I could sort of duck to be in the shade, and that's it there. I knew I was just imagining this, and I would turn and look, and sure enough, it wasn't. And really, I'm pretty sure I was about to have sunstroke or heat stroke or something. And it was just, and my feet were a mess. People were calling me the Canadian the blister. So, you know, but so I was just remembered on my very first day, I met these two American guys, and one of them said he was playing music and he liked a sort of marching beat to sort of keep him going. And I wasn't really into sort of listening to music. I wanted to hear, you know, the crunch and the birds and the wind and all that jazz. But I thought, okay, I need to do something because I can't just be here. I'm going to die here or something, right? So so I thought, okay, I'm going to put on some music, and it's got to be, what do I put on? Okay, it's got to be Canadian. So I put Leonard Cohen. And what came on was Sisters of Mercy. Oh, the Sisters of Mercy, they are not departed or gone. They were waiting for me when I thought that I just can't go on. And they brought me their comfort, and later they brought me their song. Oh, I hope you run into them, you who've been traveling so long. I'm still getting choked up just thinking about it again. And I just like, I just like, I couldn't believe it. And and right after that, like literally, a cloud sort of appeared, just a little cloud, but it sort of covered the sun a little bit, gave me a bit of shade. There was a little bit of breeze, and I thought, oh my gosh, it was just like, it just gave me a little bit of a boost. And then, so this was at the part where, you sort of look and you don't see anything. And then all of a sudden you sort of go in, there's a dip, and then there's a village in front of you or something, right? You know how that appears, or you see a village and then it disappears and you sort of like, where the heck is this place? Like, it's sort of like, I thought it was just there, right? And a village just appeared, and it was Serena or whatever. Anyways, and it was this real sign. It was like, I thought, is this a mirage? Am I imagining this? But no, it really was a sign to the village and the albergue sign. And I thought, oh, and I started hobbling faster, like trying to run, because I was just like, as best you can when you're just totally exhausted. And that point, Hallelujah came on. And the notes to Hallelujah died right when I hit the front door to that albergue. Like, just like, wow. So anyways.
That's a beautiful story, Helen.
Yeah, the weird things that happen on the Camino, hey? Isn't it? It's just like, yeah.
Camino magic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 songs alone appearing at those times. That's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so Sisters of Mercy now, like, it's just like, wow. I mean, I loved Leonard Cohen before, but after that, it was like,
I think we'll all be going and listening to those 2 songs tonight.
Right?
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're almost over time. I would just say, I would say my hitting the wall was probably the day that it rained the most. And of course, that was a day that I got lost leaving the town, which added on quite a bit of distance to my day. And got very fortunate that I didn't see a step and fell a little bit, didn't get hurt, thank goodness. But on that particular day was a day I'd had a very disturbing text from home about an issue I was dealing with the night before, and it was up quite late, hadn't slept much. And I decided that the next day I would stop and pray at every single little church along the way. And of course, that was the day it rained the most. And so out of respect, I'd want to take off all of my rain stuff every time I would enter into one of the churches. So it became more of a struggle than even normal. That was probably the day that I really remember the most, of feeling like I'd hit a wall. Like, I would get to the church and I was just soaking wet, just water coming down, and taking off the wet jacket and the backpack, and then going and saying my prayer and then putting it all back on. And it just was just kind of fitting for the day. Didn't have any miracle songs that day, but did have a miracle the next day. But that was probably my toughest day. So yeah. So Corey, anything else that you want to share? I think we've lost Michelle.
Oh, no, I just thank you to all of you for sharing that. That's one of my favorite questions to ask people. I love hearing how you overcome and dig deep and find a way to keep going. And, obviously I haven't been there. I've had my own walls I've hit in backpacking trips that I've had and things like that. And it's amazing how you can find that place and inside of you somewhere to keep going and keep moving forward. And so I honor all of your stories and experiences, and thank you for sharing those with us, because it's my favorite. I love it. So thanks.
All right, so we'll just wrap up here. Thank you, Robert, for sharing all the information about your Caminos. Loved hearing that, and congratulations to you. Like, what a great Camino repertoire you have, and I know you're going to add a bunch more, so it's really exciting to hear that. And thanks also for everyone sharing stories. We have a couple of more calls next week if you want to participate. Our calls next week, I got to find all my notes here. Okay, next Tuesday, I believe it is, November 17th, we have our first Spanish conversation meeting, and that will be at 11 a.m. because it will be with Maria Seco, who lives in, Carla, am I going to say it right? Is she in Punta Vedra?
I think.
Yeah, so she lives right on the Camino Portuguese, and I've been taking Spanish lessons from her. Do not hold my lack of Spanish skills against her. That's my fault because I'm a very terrible student on it. But anyway, she's a fantastic teacher, and we were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I asked her if she would be interested in maybe leading some Spanish conversation opportunities for us. And she said, yeah, that sounds like fun. So the call has to be at 11 a.m. so that we can get her at 7 p.m. I think it is her time. So anyway, it'll just be a fun, casual, kind of imagine us stopping at a cafe and getting a chance to speak to somebody that's speaking Spanish. And her company, she's doing this complimentary for all of us, but she does run an or a company. And her focus is on teaching folks how to have correct pronunciation for Spanish for the Camino. That's the name of her company, Spanish for the Camino. So she will really guide us on pertinent words that we need to know and to be able to say it with a Galician accent. So I have found that really, really helpful in trying to understand things. So anyway, so that'll be next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. It'll be probably about a 45-50-minute call. And I think November, we're going to be dealing with a lot of words about eating and going to cafes and things like that. And then each month she'll kind of have a theme for us. So that'll be fun. And then the following day we have our book club, and I do not have my book in front of me. Do you, Corey, by any chance?
Well, you know what? Now we're going to have to look at that because I have that as Tuesday as well at that night at 6. Is it not? Is it Tuesday? Hold on. I'm looking at my book. Maybe that's when we're, it is Wednesday. I think it's on the wrong day. So it is Wednesday 6, right?
Yeah. Yes. So it is, the book we're reading is called Deep Walking by Reno Green. Oh, there we go. Susan's got it.
Yep.
So it is by Reno Gevers, and he has a really nice Facebook page too, and has written several books. I'm really enjoying this one. It's more of a philosophical kind of a meditative book, I guess, coming in all different directions from spirituality about the spirituality of walking a pilgrimage. So anyway, that book club will just be our Camino group. And then we are doing an interview with him, I think the following week, which I think I need to get information out about that if you want to join and actually talk to him as well. So we will have something about that. And that will have to also be a daytime call because he is currently walking in France, but I think we'll be back in Spain at that time. So anyway, we have that coming up. And then next month, who's our special guest next month, Corey? I'm forgetting. I know Maria's coming up. Is it Pam?
We're okay. Hold on, sorry, because I have book club and then everything separately. So it's
Is it just happy hour next month and stories?
I'm so sorry because I have on our Camino Cafe, I have December as Reno. So I don't know if that's the only one.
Yeah, I think we might have planned for that, and then because of the time difference. So anyway, we may get another special guest. If you guys know of someone that you think would be interested, I know Robert, you had posted something on the Facebook about Tanya maybe possibly doing something about her starting an albergue, and I would love to interview some albergue owners.
She said she's something of a night owl and that she could do a 2 a.m. call.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll ask Tanya and see, because she just opened a really lovely albergue on the Portuguese, right, Robert?
Portuguese trail, but in Spain, Oyo.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a lovely site. I'm trying to think, do you recall the name of her Facebook page for that? Well, she's on the Camino Cafe. If you just look up Tanya, you'll see it. But anyway, I'll try to put something out about that.
Tanya Valdez, I think. Tanya Valdez.
Tanya Valdez, yeah. So anyway, I hope you can join us for the Spanish conversation. I think that will be fun. And the book club, where we're just trying to do different things to find more ways that we can all talk about the Camino. If you have ideas or people you think that we should maybe invite to be a guest, we would love that. And again, Robert, thank you for talking tonight and sharing your photos. And thank you everyone that came tonight. We always love seeing everyone. And anyway, if we don't see you next week, hopefully we'll see you at the next happy hour. So please take care, everyone. And if everybody,
Say one more thing. I was just gonna say, oh, sorry, Robert, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think what our plan was is we were going to interview Reno, and then if people can't make it for that, we would talk about it that first or that second Monday in the evening and show a clip of that. So we'll tell everybody.
That's right.
And then just remember that the times are mountain time. So
okay.
So I think, yeah, but we'll let y'all know.
All right. Helen just asked, how was the wine? I didn't get a chance to open it.
Oh, well.
But I will get you. I probably should post a picture of this one on our Facebook page. So maybe I'll do that and I'll give a little review. And anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight.
Thanks.
And does anyone else have anything before we say Bon Camino?
That's
All
right.
right. Thank you so much. We'll
I
see you
have,
soon. Bon
I have a
Camino.
call on Thursday night.
Oh,
The
right.
American Pilgrims Camino Austin chapter. You can find us on Facebook. And I have a guest from Sitka, Alaska, who has walked trails you've never heard of, and that's the theme. She's walked them all Camino trails all over Italy and kind of everywhere, including the Francigena. So it's trails you've never heard of.
Oh, cool.
Thursday, 7 Central.
Robert, that's this week or next week?
Yes, this week.
This week, excellent. Will you send me the Zoom
Yeah.
information and I'll post it on
Yeah.
Camino on our Facebook page.
Thank you. That sounds
All
great.
right. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. Please take care. Bon Camino.
Buen Camino.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.